Hey guys, Lightning Reviews here, and today I'm reviewing the 22nd Tenkaichi Budakai arc of Dragon Ball, along with the Fortune Teller Baba saga. So let's get into it. After the last arc, the gang arrived at the Red Ribbon and picked Goku up. I've noticed one of Dragon Ball's later problems starting to slightly arise here: power creep. Here isn't too bad, but just noticeable enough. He is now stated indirectly to be the strongest there, by it directly saying he's already stronger than Master Roshi, already leaving the other characters in the dust. As we both know, they never catch up. But as I said, it's really small at the moment, and it's understandable why Goku's stronger. But still, it'll get worse. Okay, I quickly want to talk about why I think build-up is so important. Build-up is directly tied to satisfaction, and it's a great tool to use in a story. It makes reading manga and other media itself more satisfying due to build-up and payoff. By that I mean build something up, then that thing happens later. Like the Super Saiyan transformation, it was built up by Vegeta and Frieza in conversation, and when it happened it didn't come out of left field, and it made it more satisfying. And a story checkpoint, when you got to it, it makes you feel like you're progressing through the story and makes it feel worthwhile. It also helps with problems and solutions. Let's say you can't find something, then suddenly use magic powers to find it. It would make literally no sense, would it? But if it was previously established that you had a tracker on it, then use the tracker basically, it'd be more satisfying on a smaller scale and would feel more earned. Along with this, the viewer would feel more engaged. And the more engaged you are, the higher chance you'll enjoy it more. When thinking with the characters, it makes you bonded with them. Of course, you can't jump into the page and have a casual conversation, but still, it's also, as I've said, more satisfying when the character figures it out along with you. I've said all that to mention how much I hate that Fortune Teller Baba comes from literally nowhere, and per se it feels cheap and just a plot device, and only a plot device. And it also feels, well at least I feel, breaks the flow of Dragon Ball between its arcs, which I feel is important to make sure the reader, keeps reading. This is a massive problem with Dragon Ball Super, where each arc just feels like a bunch of short stories, which leaves the reader without a hook for the next arc, which can make them stop reading. An example is the Saiyan saga. Vegeta was beaten, but how were they going to revive everyone who died? Giving the reader a hook and a reason to keep reading, which the Fortune Teller Baba arc doesn't have. They arrive at Fortune Teller Baba's place with Upa, but to get Fortune Teller Baba to help find the last Dragon Ball, they must beat her 5 champions. First off, Dracula vs Krillin. This fight for a gag manga was hilarious, in moments such as Dracula biting Krillin's head to suck his blood. Dracula's design within itself was a play on what we imagine a vampire to be: intimidating, large and strong. This vampire is the complete opposite in his scrawny appearance. He has the same powers as a vampire, so makes this particular fight at least interesting. But I'll say it sucks in my opinion that Krillin got took out of the fight already. But he did get some screen time in the Red Ribbon Army saga. Next, on to Dracula vs Puar and Upa. This fight was funny and used a strategy which was both funny, and if the viewer had knowledge of Dracula, which is likely as he is a famous character, they could have thought thought of a similar strategy, which relates to my satisfactory points earlier. Next is Yamcha versus the Invisible Man. The question depicted in this fight is how can Yamcha win if he can't see his opponent? This question is solved through Master Roshi, an ingenious idea from Krillin. But other than it being a funny gag, which was certainly efficient, there isn't much else to this fight. Next is Mummy vs Yamcha. First, I want to talk about the importance of changing and improving location. Being in constantly the same location can work for specific mangas, like the ones that are purely set in high school, but having different and defined settings can be a definitive advantage. It makes it more novel, and if people like anything, it's a novelty. By that, I mean people get bored of something that always stays the same. This also, for a manga, is key. More detailed designs can be used as eye candy for the reader to turn the page, and it continues to introduce you into a brand new world you're not familiar with, such as Dragon Ball, which is unique and looks different. While things like the aforementioned high school manga don't need ever-changing settings, is because we know what world they're in and what it looks like, as we live in a world similar. Honestly, it would suck if Dragon Ball didn't have these locations. I said this to bring me to the point that the location there in now Devil Celsius is amazing. On a small scale, is awe-inspiring and is amazing to look at and jumps out of the page. It also allows there to be more interesting fight choreography using the location as a basis. Another point is setting allows for interesting ideas and solutions to thrive, using something that us as the reader can see it and think of using. Yamcha's fight had for once some strategy by overwhelming Mummy with speed, but the Mummy is stronger and faster, with all the powers of a mummy, and uses his bandages to win. Now Goku vs Mummy. You know how I was seeing signs of power creep? I'm seeing it a lot here. Goku easily tanks hits from mummies and one-shots him. It shows his strength and hypes him up, but at the expense of literally everybody else. This happens a lot in the entirety of the Dragon Ball franchise, and it gets boring after like the first couple of times. At first it shocks you like, whoa, Goku just came in and one-shot this guy who just took out the entire Dragon team. But it gets really boring really quickly, and it just, you know what I mean? It just gets really boring after a while because you know what's about to happen. That's why novelty is so important, because you don't know what's going to happen with novelty. Now, for Devil vs Goku, there isn't much to this fight, but one thing stood out to me. When Goku gets hit with a blast, which is meant to inflate the evil in his heart and subsequently kill him, it doesn't kill him. He is then compared to a baby and animal. Goku shares many baby-like behaviours. He's energetic and like a baby, unfamiliar with the world he inhabits, which the viewer gets to discover with him. Basically by that I mean he's unfamiliar with the world, and that's kind of like a baby. Then the animal comparison. Goku has some of the base urges of an animal, like eat and sleep, a key part of his charm, and he lived in the jungle as well. I had mentioned this quote as it perfectly depicts Goku's character. In the end, Goku wins. Now Goku versus the champion. Now I want to talk about the Grandpa Gohan reveal and how great it is. I won't be talking too much about the specific techniques used to make it so great, as I've talked about them in full, but let me go over a couple signs that alluded to the viewer and characters of his reveal. Goku states he smells a happy smell, which probably means it reminds him of something happy like his grandpa. Master Roshi recognises his voice, and it makes sense as Gohan was a Turtle Hermit student, and finally he could use the Kamehameha. This reveal was amazing and a great one, along with the emotions Goku showed when seeing his grandpa almost made me tear up. which shows that I've and many others have built a connection with Goku over his story. They secure the last Dragon Ball and revive Boros. Now I'll talk about why the Dragon Balls are such a good narrative technique, and why so far their use is great in the story. Throughout the video I've talked about build up and payoff. The use of the Dragon Balls perfectly uses this to its benefits. It dedicates entire story arcs to it being gathered. Once it's used, it's satisfying, as you've seen what the cast have had to go through to get to this point, and there's a high chance you rooted for them. It also serves as a checkpoint which makes you feel like you'll progress through the story. It's also great to give reason to a lot of events that take place. Boros being revived felt hollow. Okay, that might be controversial. Well, I actually don't know if it's controversial because there isn't many YouTube videos on the subject. But let me explain my reasoning. We barely spent any time with Upa, and the time we did see him, Ford didn't flesh out his character in any way. By not having a connection with the character, the emotions you feel when his father is revived are surface level. Yay, the child's father isn't dead anymore, and that's it. For roughly a fifth, if the arc the goal was to revive Boros, and it really undercuts the emotions you feel. Goku returns. The next goal of the story is the 22nd Tenkaichi budakai. I love that Yamcha's training with Master Roshi. It then puts his character in the position to be a spotlight character, and I think it would really be good for Yamcha and his development. Goku then sets off alone for 3 years of training, alone in the vast world. Personally, I think this was a missed opportunity. Seeing Goku interact with the wider world could show different sides of Goku yet to be seen. Just seeing snippets would have been great though, and would make it feel like he has got stronger and time has passed. They get to the tournament and meet Master Shen. We can instantly tell he's bad news just by looking at him. Then the way he makes fun of the hero cast, who as the viewer we have made bonds to, makes us hate him, which worked as it was primarily Akira Toriyama's goal too. Tien's muscled appearance communicates he's the strongest of them, and in general their designs just scream evil, villain, and so on and so forth. There isn't much to say about the prelims, but the interest in Tien increases as he mocks Yamcha. Now the first fight / match, Tien vs Yamcha. In the first round, the fight has some great build-up due to the interactions between Tien and Yamcha before the fight. In the prelims, when they first met, this built up the encounter beforehand and already made you involved with the characters, and you also have a connection to Yamcha, so in a sense, you have a stake in the battle itself. The action was dynamic and used the stadium to its fullest. We learn a lot about Tien when he broke Yamcha's arm. This tells us he's cruel and loves to hurt people, and gives a stake to beat Tien when he and Goku's fight. Krillin vs Chaozu. This fight showed some aspects of strategy. He noticed what Chaozu had to do in order to use his psychic powers, which was nice and added another side to the battle, which made it separate from all of the fight. Krillin used math problems as Chaozu couldn't work them out without his fingers, which presented Krillin with a great opportunity. Master Roshi vs Tien. This fight mainly wavers and basically is the fight of the old generation versus the new generation. We've got a glimpse of both. I know as an audience the younger generation wins, as we've seen with Tao Pai vs Goku, and the battle reflects this point. It had a good theme out and was a great fight between the two combatants. Goku vs Krillin. This fight was phenomenal. This fight shows a certain side to Krillin and pushes it to the forefront. He lacks confidence. He tells Goku at the start of the fight to go all out. In my opinion, it was to reassure himself. However the fight ended, he got Goku to go all out. When Krillin is beating Goku for a time, he says, "I did it, I'm pushing him." He said this in shock, almost showing he didn't think he could even push Goku at 100%. This shows Krillin's view of Goku, and it's a mountable challenge. He puts Goku on a pedestal, way above himself. I think Krillin's confidence drop started all the way back in their training after running competition, and has slowly decreased since then, watching Goku thrive thousands of times above him. I think this fight was able to say a lot without saying it directly to us about Krillin's mental state. Along with this, the fight had unsinkable build-up from when they first met. We knew this fight was coming, and I actually enjoyed reading the section. The action, just brilliant, and it was probably one of the best fights so far in the entirety of Dragon Ball. Now for Goku vs Tien. This fight had the build-up, Yamcha's leg being broken, which enraged Goku, and from there we knew Goku was going to fight Tien. The emotional stakes were established, Goku's revenge, Tien his pride, which will make sense of one of his decisions later on. First I want to talk about fight choreography, and why I talk about it so much. Fight choreography can make the fight interesting to the eye in a show like Dragon Ball. Different techniques and different positions and locations. By that I mean mid-air or on the ground, or as I said before, different locations. The only thing is it's limited in manga's case to the mangaka's ability to draw locations and characters in rapid success, which at the moment Toriyama is doing amazingly. He makes it dynamic and makes this incredibly long fight feel more of a fast pace and keeps the viewer interested. Now I want to talk about Tien's choice to say no to his master. He said no because it was against his pride, which has been evidently built up, but it doesn't particularly feel like a character arc. Some people probably don't think it was a character arc, but if you have that viewpoint, why I believe this isn't a character arc is when Goku says you're good now, implying, it is a character arc, because Goku says you're good now, implying a character change, which is a definition of a character arc, but it's rushed and didn't make any sense. Well, it did make sense, sorry, but it felt rushed. But that is just me. This fight was the definition of nail biting, and in the end, Tien wins.